What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. Today's guest is an innovative industry leader and mentor to many. He carries a tradition of integrity, quality, and service in his projects. He has over 35 years of experience. He is the owner and founder of Looney and Associates. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Looney. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, thanks. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. I know we were just speaking before about how I love Fridays. I think we all love Fridays, but it's just a nice time I love doing these podcast recordings too, to just kind of step out of the batter's box, kind of catch up on all the things that need to be done, and just get ready for the relaxing time over the weekend, which sometimes isn't too relaxing when at home.
Yeah, our days are a little fuzzy. They run together, but it's good to have that kind of bookend to the week. And here in our office, we use Fridays as the day. Try not to schedule too many outside meetings. It's more for people to catch up. And it worked with our hybrid work protocol that we have now. So I encourage people to relax and work if they're here, work in a relaxed way. So here in the office, people are gathered around tables and, not as much pressure as during the week.
Totally. And it's so interesting to figure out all the different ways of I don't think everyone's really figured out what the new work looks like. And it's exciting to see everyone just experimenting with how many days in the office is hybrid, more in, more out. And it's kind of exciting. It's like an efficient marketplace of ideas that are happening right now.
Yeah.
And we haven't really settled on exactly what it's all going to look like, but I think it's all good.
Yeah. We have done a series of surveys. We did one as recently as last week to see how we're doing. And the results were great. In large, we're doing a good job. That middle of the week is a little bit more structured, with Mondays and Fridays being again, the bookends of the week. But by and large, really good. It was really great to read some of the responses. A couple of interesting ones were, hey, I get to stretch, between meetings. I can eat healthier. The commute is a lot easier, if you're on Zoom. And we have different offices. Here in Dallas, we're more of a commuter office. In Chicago, people take public transportation. So a commute is a commitment, an hour and a half. So
Totally,
being flexible there or just avoiding traffic in our Honolulu office. Our folks there commit. So it's different in every city, every situation. But some of the great responses were, I get to kiss my dog.
Yeah.
Or, and I thought really a great one was, hey, in between calls, I might be able to do a chore, and I could do those during the week. So my weekend, that's not what I'm doing all weekend. So it was really good. We rely on these surveys.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because no one is the same. Everyone has their own needs and everyone has their own priorities. And I think that as this marketplace of ideas of what the new work looks like, and then it kind of settles in all these areas, I think it's allowing for everyone to do what's best for them and be themselves more. And I think it's accretive, right? Everyone is benefiting. And I think it's a real silver lining that's come out of this. Now, some people are fighting it. A lot of people like you are embracing it. And it's good to, I don't know. I think I love change. I think change is how we all evolve. And it's exciting to see. I wanted to just let everyone know that you and I came here today to speak because we were in Miami at an event. I was sitting with you and we were talking about this podcast that I had started. And speaking with the Michael Bedners of the world and the Lenny Parkers, although he didn't want to be on the podcast. He had a nice conversation with him in his home. And I haven't spoken to Trish Wilson yet, but just thinking about like all these founders, like the people who kind of started our industry, and like what the provenance of all of us are from those really great kind of first movers within this hospitality design industry. And you, like so many, came up under Trish Wilson.
Right.
And I just think it's so amazing to see how many people and careers and inspiration came from a Trish and a Michael and a Howard and like all of here. And I wanted to kind of tap into that. Like, how did you first meet her? And then, like, I would assume she would be considered like a mentor of yours as well, but like, how did you find your way into this world?
Yeah, it's yeah, I feel like, yeah, those were the leaders. They really established the hospitality design industry as we know it. And, the way Trisha did it was residential designers, and she had residential designers and then hired architects. So that mashup created, just a great combination. There were some great projects that launched her actually here in Dallas with Trammell Crow. But, I'm so fortunate, Dan, to have been, I feel like I had a front row seat and all that.
Yeah.
I came in at a time when this industry was being formed. That was the genesis. It really was. I think Michael Bedner, again, in that same strata, we're creating all of this. And kind of the rise of hospitality industry as we know it was then. So I consider myself so fortunate. And then, that created this wonderful family tree that had its roots back then. I just happened to, come in at a time when it was forming. So, again, I feel so fortunate. And then all the people that, that family tree has been growing and growing. And it's the most fun in the world. We are so fortunate to be in this business.
One of the things that strikes me about working with your teams and in the offices around the country and the projects that you work on, and it's not just me, but I hear it from so many other people, and I'm curious like how you scale this and probably get it out of your head. But if we think of a project, you're building a hotel, you're opening a hotel, there's so many different inputs, from construction to design to architecture to everything. And I find that there's this idea of a return on time, right? How can we all be the most efficient and organized to really deliver a great project? And from my experience and from what I've heard from others, even very recently, the deliverables that you guys pull together and your organization and documentation, it just makes the process, nothing is ever easy, but it really makes the process really smooth for all parties. As a furniture supplier, I'm sure as a general contractor, as an owner, as all of the different consultants. How did you, and it's also very similar through all of your offices, right? And through all of your great team. How do you embrace that value, and how do you get it out of your head and into everyone else's so that it's just the way it goes? I'm very intrigued by that.
There is a trickle down effect. I think there is an attitude, and I think it's probably modeling, how to treat people. When I started, one of the big things was I felt like I could start my firm when I believed I could gain the trust of people, of a client, that they trusted me. It's a big thing. It's a tall order. They have a lot riding on it. Developers, think about the millions, think about the heartburn that they have when, things are over budget or whatever. So, I always felt like that I had their trust, then, I could do things for them. I had I would always make sure that, I could carry that through. I didn't take on anything that I didn't feel confident in doing. I started my firm doing renovations. Here's a guy, probably going to give me a 500 room, 1,000 room hotel, but gosh, I could do a renovation, and I trusted myself that I could do that. So that was the genesis for all of that, and that's what I hope that I convey to people, that hey, you can trust us. We take that very seriously, and we just want to do a very thorough job. Again, it goes back to my just ethos of helping. My job is to help people.
So, in our initial calls and just conversations, and then just knowing you over the years, I get that feeling so much of the treating people well, doing unto others. And then how do you take that ethos, which is so important to you, that value, and how does that help you define what hospitality is?
Well, hospitality to me is making people feel comfortable in your presence. That, to me, that's the definition of hospitality. But the ethos of helping, it works on several different levels. My job, for instance, for designers here, if they've encountered a particular problem, my job is to help them get through that. From our clients, you're building a hotel, my job is to help you realize your vision. Because, we work in the public sector, we work with developers. They have a vision. They want to do something, they want to build a building. They want ROI, they have all kinds of things right now. So my job is to help them achieve that. That's that ethos of helping. And then we take it a little bit further too, is outreach here in our own community. So that's a literal ethos of helping.
Oh, so I want to, because, and that made me very curious, because in all of the times that we've spoken, it's helping others, helping others, helping others. And this ethos that I'm hearing you talk about, I'm really curious about what kind of, as far as an impact from a charitable time, what are you passionate about on that side, outside of work, of helping others?
Yeah, we've done some things. We've had connections with Dallas Independent School District. So we've helped them every year. We do a quarterly outreach in all of our offices. And we have a group here that channels those efforts every quarter, and it can be different. Sometimes they're repetitive, and that's very meaningful to people. It gets us out of ourselves. And then something that I'm really, really proud of. I have a scholarship back at the Fay Jones School of Architecture and Design, where I got my architecture degree. And I didn't know this. And how it all started.
Yeah, tell me more about that. I didn't.
Yeah, it's when I was inducted to Platinum Circle, the firm wanted to give me a gift, and I'm pretty hard to buy for, honestly.
You know what you need and you get it.
Yeah, my wife could tell you that. So they, so creative, said, well, we'll do a scholarship. So they contact the School of Architecture and started this. And so, and I didn't know this, but when you establish a scholarship, you can direct it any way you want to. It can be, gosh, kids from Dallas County, Texas, or whatever. I always felt like that we benefited, especially in hospitality, from a larger world view. So mine is geared to the travel abroad, study abroad program that is in the 4th year curriculum. Because I believe that, students ought to be able to, again, have a bigger world view.
I love that so much. And I've got goosebumps as you said it, because I don't have very many regrets in my life, but one is when I was in college, I never studied abroad, and that kills me. And I wish I could have done that. And the closest I've done was a few years ago, moving to Vietnam with my family and opening an office out there, but like really being in a place for more than just a week
Yeah.
or a few days. And I think it's the ultimate gift. And I think it's it's something that as a family, we do all the time. It's part of us is travel. And to be able to give that to kids or young men and women at University of Arkansas to like encourage that, it increases the worldview incredibly.
Yeah, and they don't have the means necessarily, or may not have had the means to
Mhm.
do it. This is a mandatory program, and it wasn't in place when I was there, and I wish I had had it. I'm like you, David. I wish I had had that, and like you, I'm sure, travel is the thing that inspires us all.
Mhm.
I was in New York and saw this it's a beautiful paving pattern in a very modern hotel. Oh, wow, that looks really great. About 2 weeks later, I was in Florence. And there was that same pattern. So it had been it had been around for centuries, you know. So that inspiration from travel is just it's invaluable, especially in our business and hospitality.
Yeah, and it just to be able to see and experience all of our differences, which when you really get down to it, it's the same mosaic here and there because we're all this mosaic and we're all standing on the shoulders of those before us. Um,
Yeah.
do you have any good stories about someone who received the one of the scholarships and then went on on the abroad experience and came back? Like, do you get to hear those,
Yeah.
how you
I,
impacted them?
I do. There's a young lady who's one of the recipients here in Dallas. She happened to be from Dallas. I didn't realize that she was a recipient, but we had known her. Our family had known her since she was a little girl. Went to the School of Architecture. She was a recipient. We and the program is based in Rome. Um, so my wife and I were in Italy, happened to be in Rome, and found out that she was there. So we all got together in Rome while she was there doing her semester abroad and got to talk about it and visit. And it was it was such a great experience. I mean, that was it really brought to life. It was so tangible. It wasn't just a name, or an event at an honors banquet. There she was in Rome. We were all together. It was just a ton of fun.
Wow. And then have you ever had a recipient of your scholarship ever come and work for you in any of your offices?
I'm trying to think. No, but I have several graduates here from the school, and we do via the scholarship. It's just really tied me to and given me an interest in students and what they're doing. So we do critiques with the School of Architecture. The interior design program is now in that umbrella, and so I don't know. It's been great to have that connection.
Yeah, and again, you think about these students who are just coming out and to be able to broaden their worldview and give them this experience, it only enriches. And I'm sure there's this idea of paying it forward, right? So that they're going to get it and then they're going to remember and then they're going to pay it forward. And it's like throwing a stone into a pond, right? The ripple effect.
And another gratifying thing I just learned about a month ago that the first recipient is now opening his own architecture.
Wow.
Which is great. Great, a great young guy, and so proud of him.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and he said, "Gosh, I want to make sure we stay in touch. Love your advice. Can you be a mentor to me? Continue to be a mentor to me." His career goes forward.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it has a lot of legs to it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, So I love the idea of helping students, and I'm pretty involved with this organization called the Opportunity Network. I actually was just at their gala the other night, and it
Nice.
takes all these kids from high school, and then sometimes I'll coach kids on how to write their essays. They've never been to college before. Um, it gets them placed and coached in college, and then it helps them out, not just in high school, but also through college, getting them placed in internships. And I've been very passionate about that and getting it coming into our industry in hospitality, because I just feel like whatever we learn of serving others that I think is so deeply entrenched within our industry, it's transferable to everything, to
Yeah.
every industry. It's being empathetic. It's thinking about how someone is going to experience walking through this space, or, you know, or like, what is this? It's always putting others first is what
Yeah.
I find, and what drives me. And we can all learn from that.
Mhm. And you think about the nature of the spaces that we create, and you're furnishing. We're doing that for somebody we don't know. Who's going to walk through those doors? We don't know. So we hope it has that appeal. Again, we're doing it for others that maybe we'll get to meet them, maybe we won't.
Yeah. And then, okay, so then so let's say you're at University of Arkansas, you finish, you have your architecture degree, right? And then how did you find your way back to Dallas, or to Dallas?
Yeah.
And how did you find your way into the hospitality industry? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. I found my way here through a classmate. When we graduated, he went to work for Trisha. And so he, I wasn't in Dallas, and he called and said, "Hey, I'd love for you to be at my wedding. Come to," he's marrying a person from Fort Worth. Came to the wedding, was in the wedding, met Trisha, met the group, and then he called me a few weeks later and said, "Hey, we're going to be hiring. Why don't you put your name in the hat?" I said, "Sure." Came over. And 6 weeks later, we were in Dallas, and the rest is history. So I'm just so fortunate. So, it's, life. I think you heard the speaker at HD Summit this year, Dan, that I think she was director at the MoMA, said life is like a vector. You set your vector. I want to be, an engineer. I want to, set a course, but then all these other vectors come in, so that's how there are a couple of those, that got me here. So I'm just so fortunate and happy to be doing this.
And what year was that?
Let's see, I started there 82.
Wow. So then 1982, you're there, you're working for Trisha. And then were you interacting with her every day? She is just so inspirational and amazing to me. And
Yeah,
I don't know. I've only met her a couple of times. I don't know her that well, but
I was the 15th person.
Wow.
In that firm, and we had sequential employee numbers, and I think, they went to thousands after that. But yeah, so yeah, we were and it was a growing firm. It was a fun time. So yeah, it was kind of intimate. A good group of people, core group of people.
Yeah. Wow. And then you go and you fast forward from 1982 to now. You're in Dallas, you're in Chicago, and you're in Honolulu. What to me, Honolulu is like the dream place. Like, what prompted you to open the office out there?
We were working on a project on Maui, and it was a large project, kind of end to end, top to bottom repositioning project there. And
which one was it?
It was the Marriott Wailea for Sunstone Properties, and it was a big project, so it needed some boots on the ground. So that's how that started. We had traditionally or historically done work out there, starting at the Wana Surfrider there in Honolulu some years prior to that, and it just always a place that was it was just great,
So, okay, the Moana Surfrider, actually, I had a life-changing experience there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know how it's it's got the big mangrove tree out in that central courtyard in the back, and there's a bar
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Do you know a guy named John Staub? Do you ever meet him? He's out in Hawaii. He was with Phil Potts.
I never met him.
No. I was sitting out there with him, and I was asking him, I said, "Hey, John, how do you, would always go on these great vacations, like trekking up to, I don't know, like base camp of Everest, or like always." And
Yeah.
he would take these big, like 1 month long vacations. And I was like, "How do you do it?" He's like, "Oh, I just have a really good team. And I go out there and I do it." He's like, "You should do it." I was like, "For a month?" He goes, "Yeah, just do it." And I started to like have a panic attack. I was like, "I can't go away for a month and unplug. Like, that's crazy." But I had a trip coming up for a week to a family. We go to this family camp up in New Hampshire. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to do 1 week. I'm not going to touch my phone or my computer." And it was the greatest week of my life at that
Yeah.
point. And now I do it every single year. But when I was up in New Hampshire, I wrote him a postcard saying, "Oh, thank you. This was amazing. I didn't know like how present I could be with my little kids running around." And I said, "Hey, I'm going to be out in Hawaii, and I'd love to see you." I got no response. I emailed him like I was coming in August, no response. I got out to Hawaii, and it turns out he'd had a stroke.
Oh no.
And then it was some trade show that had come up later. I saw him. He's better and everything's fine now with him. I haven't seen him in a while, but I saw him. He was riding around on like he was on a rascal. He was still going through physical therapy, trying to get everything back to normal. And I ran up to him. I gave him a hug, and he said to me, he goes, "I got your letters. You see, I've been busy." He goes, "But now you see why it's so important to do that."
Oh, well, that brought it home, right?
Brought it home. And it comes back to that whole idea of like Friday and taking the time. And like, I think that also truly is like one of the silver linings coming out of all of this that we've been through. It's as horrible as this whole pandemic has been for so many people. I think it's also forced us to like really think differently about things,
Yeah, totally. I've heard silver lining several times in reference to, looking for the positive, in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Where can we find that silver lining? But yeah, you really have to adjust your lens for a lot of things.
Totally.
You really do. And here in our firm, we want to make sure as much as we can that work, that's not the thing you have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
We as business owners, we have lots of things that keep us up at night. But for people here in our offices, it gives me greater sense of peace that they don't have that to worry about. They can focus on other things, but when we are here, we're present.
Yeah. And at all of your offices, you've built such a great team. And I know you didn't do it alone. Like it's your team. Like, but I think a lot of that comes from you as well. And I heard you say, as a business owner, what keeps us up at night? What's keeping you up at night now?
It's, I've been doing this long enough that we've been through a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been through, the World Trade Center, terrorist attacks. We've been through recessions, big downturns. And, like John Tisch said, well, just throw in a pandemic. What else can there be? But, I really do think about people, are things fair and balanced, as far as our projects, workload? Is that okay? One of the folks that, one of my first clients said, and I believe this too, if I can do the things that are under my control, I can focus on that. Things that are out of my control, I can't. Mm-hmm. I didn't predict a pandemic, but I'd had enough experience with other kind of ups and downs to anticipate some things that might happen. kind of really skewed things, created some situations we would never have known about. But back to your original question, keeping things fair and balanced, making sure that, people can maintain some sense of balance. And we were a very flexible firm even before this happened, but this, which is great, because this helped us, continue to get through all this.
And then as you think about, okay, so we're getting through it, you have great teams all over, like what's exciting you most about the future?
It's funny. I think that because of this new lens, we're starting to explore just different things, and they may be right in your front yard. I think before we had the opportunity to travel wherever, the world was our oyster. We'd go anywhere to do anything. We've been limited in that way now, so it's forced us to I don't know, appreciate things that are maybe right in front of us. So as far as things that excite me, it's just that kind of reawakening that's happening, reawakening with, I want to get closer to my family. Where are places I can go that I can do that? So that may guide us to, gosh, you know what? I want to be outdoors with my family. You know what? I want to be in the excitement of a city. Which city can I go to do that? So it's a little bit of a reawakening of all those things.
And then as you're reawakening and looking at things differently, like what are some things that you're doing in your business and with your teams that are different than you've done in the past? Like how are you continuing to evolve?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fluid right now, and probably what we've been doing, what we did a year ago is different than what we're doing now. It's again, like you've probably heard, we're fixing the airplane while we're flying it. I'm sure you've heard that many times.
I do it all the time.
yeah. And, but doing things differently, I think I think a lot of people are, just more casual. We're not as demanding or as exacting about expectations. We know that everybody's different, everybody's situation is different. So I think there's more tolerance for that. I think, delivery of our projects is still, speed to market is still a thing. Doing things for on time, on budget, on schedule they're still there. But I think internally, we're just more tolerant.
I like that. Calm. And then actually in one of our conversations or before we started talking today, you were telling me about Grove Studio. Tell me about that. Like that seems to be something different as well and innovative. Is that?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's a division within our firm that does product design, and it's we started doing surfaces, more focused on surfaces. So we have we provide design for instance, Studio Art in Vicenza, Italy. They're a leather company, and we had used their leathers on upholstery for many years. We saw that they were doing wall tile. It was very interesting, but for us, we needed something. It was interesting because, for us, surfaces, it can be millwork, it can be stone, it can be wall covering. Leather walls was, I don't know, it was very interesting to us, but they were not of a scale or an application that we could use in hospitality. We needed bigger things for lobbies or restaurants or whatever, suites. So we created leather panels that have metal accents. We also do textiles textile design for James Dunlop out of New Zealand.
Oh, wow. So you're like full, like product designing, industrial designing in a way.
Yeah. Link here in Dallas does beautiful outdoor furniture. Working with them. Look, wall coverings. Also here in Dallas, we just launched a line, and that's what one of those lines is nominated for HD Product Design Award.
Oh, for the HD awards coming
Yeah,
up
for the
this
HD
year.
Award coming up. So
Oh, good.
we're excited about that.
And which one is that again?
It's Look.
Look.
Yeah,
Okay.
based here in Dallas.
Oh, good. I'll have to check that out, and we'll definitely put it in the show notes, because I also think, like, as a business owner, entrepreneur, always evolving and growing and like putting people first and building these great teams of people throughout your tenure, just the amount of like intellectual property and just design for because every project you see is a new constraint. They offer all these new constraints, and you're always trying to figure out how to like bridge the gap on those constraints. And you must create and just have such a vast library of so many different materials and new ways of thinking about challenging or addressing old problems. And that's kind of cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's we're in the design business. We do most of our projects are custom designed, case goods. It kind of threads through virtually everything we do. So we thought, well, gosh, we're doing this. We love doing it. Maybe we can help people supplement their design efforts, and people have been very receptive to it. We're always looking for different things, and it's so funny. Our office, it's full of wonderful products and materials and things, but it's almost never enough, But that's what we do for our clients. We're editors. We're the filter for all those things. Hey, I want to do a great restaurant, or even, hey, I think I want to do a natural stone floor. Well, that's our job to go out and find that perfect floor, the perfect pattern, the perfect thickness, draw it, design it, present it, So
yeah. And you have to really put yourself in your client, not just your client, but all the guests that are going to be coming through there as well. And it's just like the ultimate exercise in empathy.
it is. You're creating a stage set of sorts, for some, and I believe it has to feel immediately comfortable. I would say, guest, they're not in the design business, they're laymen, can't put their finger on it. Why they like it. A lot of times they can refer back to a piece of art or service. The person, the man or woman at the front desk was really great, super helpful. But the envelope that we designed, they may not be able to put their finger on it. I just like it. It feels good.
And I think that's also, in a way, a frustrating part about what we do, in that oftentimes the best experiences are when you actually don't notice what's going on, right? You're fully present and mindful about what you're doing right then. Nothing is distracting your attention. You're just completely in the moment.
Yeah, and you want those. The Instagram moment has become something. Some people, want that, but I think it has to be natural. I don't think it can be contrived. Some people, sometimes there are those fun things. It's creating that picture postcard moment, but I think that the most successful are things that it evokes a feeling.
As you look back over your career and before your career, and you think about just people that you've worked with or interact with or learned from, who do you think was your biggest mentor on your journey?
I think naming someone who was really instrumental was Jim Rimmelsbaugh. he was an architect at Trisha's office, who's super talented. I was new to the hospitality business. We were all kind of young guns then, but he had he was my mentor, I would say. Great architect, great sensibilities. I just learned a lot by observing.
And was there any one situation or moment that really impacted you the most as you were kind of learning from him?
I'd say, Dan, when we would travel to projects, we got to talk design. I got to see it in action. And, we, on several occasions, we got to fan out a little bit. If we were in Boston, we got to go, we would make sure we went to see things, that were inspirational. It was more, being with him. That was great, and observing him. And then, there were always things he would teach me about scale or things like that, I used when I drew things.
And if you could plot a line from Jim through you to your team, like, what do you think you've taken from him and that you've kind of paid forward?
I think it's maintaining an eye for detail and for scale. A lot of what we do is intangible. It's about taste or your sensibilities, I'd say. Putting colors together, materials together. And Jim just had that great eye, and that artful eye, I'll call it. But he also had the ability he led me to resources or a way of thinking that always made me look at the scale of things, how things fit in a space. So that was always something that helped me a lot.
And I know,
and stitching that through to all of our projects.
Right. And I know it's very intangible, and it's really a sense of feeling, right? And to me, I'm just always curious about how can you take that feeling and share it and teach others to tap into that feeling as well?
Yeah, that is a tough one. And I think there are folks here in my office I've worked with elsewhere who are very good teachers in that sense. And then I think there are people who are good models. They may not be able to verbalize it, but I think if you're around it, you can probably pick it up. But I think dialogue is great. Having an explanation, if you have a critique or you have a point of view, is be open to that. And being able to just talk about it. I'm not a fountainhead here. It doesn't have to spring from me. I love seeing what other people come up with, and maybe I'm more of the symphony conductor, or a lot of times I'm the editor. I'm in that role because my clients expect it. But it makes me happy when I see people be their creative best.
I love that you brought up the Fountainhead, and I've always loved the writings of Ayn Rand. Mostly, I think what I've loved about it the most is if you mix up Ayn Rand, it spells Dan Ryan. So I would always, and I don't know if I'm a little dyslexic or something, but every time I would see and they're big books, right? So when I look at my bookshelf and I see them, I'm like, I kind of see my name in there. It's just kind of funny.
There you go.
But I love that you're not a fountainhead, you're a symphony conductor. I like that. I mean, it's so true. And especially as you scale, it's really hard to be a fountainhead. You really have to be able to get the best out of your whole team. You got the timpani over here, you got the woodwinds over here, you got the strings over here. and get them going.
And I want them to take the bow too. It's not me. It's all of them. They do, and I'm so proud of them. They do so great. They work so hard, to achieve these things. But yeah, I feel like that's my role. And again, it circles back to that. If I can help them be successful, then that's my job.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Their
We'll all be successful in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Another I want to add.
Oh yeah.
We're so fortunate in this business to be able to see those results. If I was, in another profession, we leave a legacy. A very, a tangible, visible legacy. We can walk back into a hotel that we worked together and see it. There it is. It's gratifying.
That's really, yeah, it's really exciting because it's a real tangible thing. I can go with my kids and say, oh, I worked on this one, and you get to walk through it, and yeah, it is
touch it and feel it.
Uh-huh.
And interiors too, I firmly believe that, more and more, no matter what the brand or what the product is, there's a desire for a story. That's just a big thing. It's not about decorating a space or whatever. It's all about conveying a story. And I think that what we do, especially in interiors, that's when people really come in contact with the story. You can touch it, you can feel it. The materials you use, the art you place, you want to convey, a story that is comfortable and relaxing. Well, then, are your furnishings that way? Are the colors calming, soothing? You want it to be bright, want to make it an energetic space. Well, that says something too.
Well, it's also interesting to see, you come up with studying architecture, right? And then, you have architects on one side and interior designers on the other. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes there's conflict between. And me as an outsider, I get going back to the Fountainhead, the architect, like building this great edifice. Yeah. But on the interior side, it is so much more about the people, right? Because it's how are they interacting and playing and feeling within the space. And do you see a conflict between architecture and interior design? And how did you reconcile your journey to interior design?
Yeah, I'm just fortunate that I got in this swim lane, and I love being an architect. That's one of the things that defines me. But I love interiors, especially hospitality interiors. But reconciling all that, I think I was fortunate. Because I'm an architect, I could relate to shell building architects, spoke the language, knew whatever he was talking about. But I think now it's more blended. It really is. Now there are programs in schools that focus on interior architecture. I think that it's more integrated now. I know at even the Fay Jones School, they're creating a graduate program in hospitality, which is great. Wow. And interior design and architecture and landscape design are all in the same school, and they're layering in vertical studios. So everybody gets to work together. So while it was separate, when I was starting out, it's becoming more blended now. And the interior experience, especially in hospitality, is very important. The genesis of the concept a lot of times is manifested in the interior.
Totally.
I love being an architect.
Good. Well, you get to understand the entire spectrum of the building to the experience within. And I think oftentimes that's, I feel like a lot of architects just go down the architect path, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I always get upset when I see the conflict between, because like you're saying, where they're bringing these entities together, like everything feeds off of and informs each other. And I think it's really important to have as much of that cross-pollination as possible.
Yeah, and you know, it's a lot of owners, a lot of developers want that interaction, that play. You know, sometimes they, you know, some ideas come in conflict, but it's I feel like my job a lot of times is to make sure that it's a complete thought at the end of the day. That's one of my jobs. I think that's something we do very, very well, is creating a complete thought.
Yeah. And telling that story.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, resorts, you know, it's a little bit fuzzier. Architecture is interiors and, you know, and shell building architect kind of blend. It's fuzzy anyway. But again, in any project, it's got to be a complete thought.
Okay, one of the things I like to do in these conversations is I like to go through a little time machine. So imagine you, Jim, that I'm talking to right now, teleports back to the Jim just graduating architecture school. And you're standing in front of yourself. What advice do you give yourself?
That's a great question. Be open. There are a lot of paths to achieve the same result. There are a lot of paths to achieve satisfaction, fulfillment in your career, and be open to that. I never dreamed that I would have a life in hospitality interiors. I didn't know that. So I would say, yeah, don't have blinders on about the profession, and because I think a lot of times, you know, professions kind of guide you in a certain direction. But yeah, stay open-minded, look around, try to look around the corner.
I think that dovetails nicely into the idea of the vectors that we were talking about, right? There's just, you just never know, right? And if you're open, if you're truly open, you're just open to the experience that's coming into you, and you adapt and move as you go without blinders. I love that.
Yeah, but that's a great question, you know?
It's good because,
yeah,
you know, I think, again, I said earlier, I have very few regrets. I really don't. It was really that I didn't go to live abroad when I was in college. But I think that even with no regrets, I think we can still teach ourselves and others by our own life experience. So I think it's just a good way to kind of just check in and kind of have that out of body experience so that we can all learn.
Yeah, that would be great. My hair would be a lot darker.
Totally. Yeah.
And, but no, that's a super great question. You know, because yeah, as you know, it's a journey. You know, and you know, people have been the biggest influence. You know, there are things that have been influencers. You know, great spaces, great cities, great experiences, but it's all about people.
I totally agree. And if people wanted to reach out to you and learn more about Looney and all the things that you guys are up to, how can they do that?
Yeah, we have a very active social media presence, you know, and LinkedIn. Feel free. You know, my email is, you know, happy to post this, Jim L at Looney-Associates. Yeah.
And we'll put all that up in the show notes as well.
Please do. Please do.
I love the idea that people are really the experience, and that is really the journey. All the other stuff is just kind of is noise. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's really,
yeah,
and I get it. And in everything, it's all people, it's all others, it's treating people. That's what I'm hearing from you. And to hear you kind of wrap it up there, I totally agree. And that's, as I'm learning about trying to define what hospitality is, you know, there's nothing black and white, but I think it's all about people and the interrelationship and being able to think like the other. So that's all my exploration right now.
Yeah, we're designing for people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's designed 5 people. But yeah, it's all about relationships. But the people have had the biggest impact.
I
Along the
completely
way.
agree.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I want to say thank you so much for being such an incredible guest. I've enjoyed this conversation incredibly much.
Well, it's been a fun way to wrap up the week, Dan. It's always a pleasure to see you, whether you're in person or on screen. You know, we've traded a lot of travel time for screen time
Yes.
these days. So it's always great to see you. And I hope to see you in New York.
Well, yeah. Again, that's really good to know about your wall covering. That's going to be at the HD Awards for a product. So I will definitely see you in New York during the NYU Lodging Conference and also the HD Awards. And I think that's going to be awesome. And I also, most importantly, speaking of people, I'm just always amazed by the growth in just people who are listening to all these conversations. So I just want to say thank you to the people who are listening, because people care, and like we're in this really cool niche and people just want to know more and more and more about it. And I feel like it's a really cool way to fill in the gaps about what we do and why we do it. So
Yeah.
if this changed your thoughts on how to deliver or think about hospitality or people, please pass it along, share the link, and we'll all catch you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Dan, thanks so much. Great talking.